It being 7 o'clock, we might as well begin. And I see a lot of new faces, so maybe you don't know lampshades? What's with lampshades? Well, a number of years ago, a group got started around the corner in a shop that sold lampshades. And so we read there in the evening for quite a while, and then he closed. But we kept the name. We are the Lampshade Poets. And then we went to a restaurant there, and now we're here. So welcome to the Lampshade Poet reading. I'm thinking that, Pam, what do you think? 2 poems and then start over again if they have more, or should have 3 and then go on?
Let's do 3.
3? Okay. So everybody can, and in your order, come up and read 3, and then if we have more, then we'll cycle through again. And afterwards, there's some cookies and drinks back there if you want to mingle and chat with each other. All right.
Cookies are handmade by Janet, and they're to die for. They're really good.
So we'll start with Ivy. Ivy Schweitzer.
Yes. Okay, let me just get back to.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Is that good?
Yes.
Good, yay. I just came off writing a series of very politicized poems, and given what happened this week, I just couldn't go there. I had to go somewhere else, so, yeah, please. A good friend said to me she just turned her cell phone off for the entire weekend. It's like, don't tell me what happened, I don't want to know. But anyway, so these are relatively new poems that I'm interested in responses. This one was written in response to reading an excerpt by Trans Tromer. Do people know he's Swedish or Danish? I think it's Swedish. And his first name is Thomas Trans Tromer. If you don't know his work, there was an excerpt in the New Yorker, and I read it, and it was just like, I just had to go literally to my computer and start writing. And it's called Desolation in the Region of the Heart. How I took you for granted, poetry, that you would always be there, percolating under my skin, beneath my breath, how you were utterly quotidian, almost domesticated, but how I forgot how you caved into wild November spaces, troubled by wailing, echoes, insistent voices jostling towards me away from the sluggish river and its bent boatmen. How I loved her and loathed her, the woman who bore me, how she died there in the hospital bed, surrounded by those necessitated. Ordinary, yet momentous the waiting, not peaceful. I know she struggled, did not want to go, did not know how to think about it. Who does? The rabbi telling me when she called about the service, being the eldest child, the favorite. She had offended the others, so we were necessitated, loving and loathing. I held her hand dry and warm. Imagine she squeezed it, her eyes fluttering against the morphine. 3 generations of women linked in some momentous chain. A short gust of weeping, the sons-in-law hanging back, and after a deep, gasping silence, we moved off from the bed, latched onto the living, resumed our normal voices, started to plan what had to be canceled, who notified, what done, as if she were not there, skin grayer now, taken for granted in the life she clung to, burnt out center of our universe, still as if death were utterly quotidian, as if a wonder had not happened. It gets a little lighter after that. So I just came off finishing a project of very political poems, poems about my identity, my upbringing as a Jewish woman, the myths I was told about race and racial identity, and they're pretty heavy and cringy poems, and so I'm now onto another project in which I want to somehow imagine the world from the point of view of insects and plants. Right, so I really want to get out of the human world and see humans kind of as, not little, but less domineering, less dominant. I'm a gardener too, I should say, and I don't have a green thumb, I have a giant thumb. Everything gets huge. So what I've been doing is taking poems that I wrote about nature and kind of rewriting them from the other's point of view, right? So these are kind of revisions. This one is called "They Just Don't Get It," and I should also say that there's phrases in square brackets where the human voice comes in. So I'm going to just kind of go like that. So you'll know that that's when because you kind of have to see it, it's like visual, okay? So they just don't get it. Ruby throat hovers over upturned cups, long petaled, orange-striped nectar bowls fringing the cottage porch. Sip, quaff, sip, sip, savor. Lilies tremble, quiver, lapped. Then a shadow stumbles, startles, gone. Sun again, throw off torpor, engine revved, 80 wing beats per second, roaring past spent blossoms to new ones unfurling on the same notched stem. Big breather again in territory, deafening. Nothing but to dive bomb its head, sunk deep in the day's dim wine. No mistaking the invitation to pay attention to the here and almost instantly gone. So that's the hummingbird poem. This one is relatively new as well. It's inspired by a friend of mine who is a pianist and a composer who had a mention in one of his books about, the mention was, what does the insect want? And the response was, they want us to write sonatas in their honor. Or they want to honor us by writing sonatas. And so I was so struck by this, and I said, well, where is that from? And he said, Alexander Scriabin, who is a kind of Russian composer, in 1913 wrote a sonata, his 10th sonata, which he called the Insect Sonata. And he said about it, I of course went and then looked it up, he said about it, quote, "My 10th sonata is a sonata of insects. Insects are born from the sun. They are the kisses of the sun." So this poem is called Alternative Voice. No, Scriabin, we don't want a damn sonata to honor us, though the thought is somewhat sweet, but not as sweet as nectar, which will disappear with the flowers when they head north to better climates, or stop blooming altogether, scorched by rampant insecticides and unseasonable heat. Quote, "Born from the sun, kisses of the sun, my segmented ass. Yeah, we love the sun, but frisk around raindrops, even able to withstand a direct hit. It's the exoskeleton, dimwit. Tough as nails, not like your pathetic epidermis, so easily pierced, pinched, and bitten by us, extracting your yummy blood, injecting our butchy saliva, embedding our whole selves into your flesh to relish every warm gobble. Or we hunker down in leaf litter, in the hive, level the webs, so many ways we survive. But now that's all changing, and it's not anything we have done. You excavate the fire of the earth to run your satanic mills. oceans fried and fouled, rebelling against their shores, weather unpatterned, unleashing the worst tantrums, balance broken, the tight web of dependence, frayed almost beyond repair. So don't talk to me about sonatas to honor our species. Look to yourselves. Look to your Wendigo spirit of greed, guarantor of discord. Thank you.
Introduce Bob Powell.
Thank you, Ivy, for a great reading. That's very nice. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, the quotidian, right?
The quotidian.
Yeah. Yeah.
The quotidian is the portal of the interiority. Claudia Rankin was just at Dartmouth,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
she said that.
Oh,
The
wonderful.
quotidian is the portal of the interiority.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
thought, wow.
Yeah, and your poem exemplified that. Very nice. So I'm Bob Powell, and I guess we have a lot of listeners tonight relative to readers. And in comedy, I think it's the straight man always gets paid more than the comedian. So we'll have to divvy up at the end, right? So thank you for all being here. It's wonderful to fill the room. So this poem, I don't think it requires a whole lot of explanation. It's called The Library is Inhabited. The library is inhabited by the homeless, who can be told from among the books by their wearied faces and by the stiffness of their gaits coming out of the cold. They are not catalogued upon their return. No one is fined when they are late. They smell like old books, but no one puts their nose into them to inhale deeply their fragrance, because they are not books and would take offense, so worse would feel ashamed and vulnerable as books to be discarded because seldom read, or burned because they contain indiscretions which are not discreet to read or to talk of. There are murderers among them, and thieves, fornicators and divorcees, corrupt public officials and jealous priests, disreputable lawyers and physicians. Every last one of them is an Odysseus. Amidst such shipmates, I'll try that again. Amidst such shipmates, Ishmael on the Pequod would have felt quite at home. But who would entrust their children to them? There's an occasional saint, but the ones now talking to themselves are mostly mad. The librarian must ask them to leave, for they disturb those who are trying to read, or scanning the help wanteds on the computer, or filling out applications, or trying to bum a cigarette by inhaling splayed fingers at their lips and nodding towards the door, or under the bus canopy to stay dry. The regulars are smoking. I think I'll save that for last. I love the stand. Whose idea? Good idea. This is a short one. It's called A Story. It's also self-explanatory, I hope. I told the stranger because he was about my age, and because we were already naked and dripping, and now toweling after our shower at the gym, and because we had already made small talk, and because his face seemed kind, how riding my bike to the gym, 2 Rottweilers had pounced and surrounded me like prey or an intruder, and how their owner, on the far side of the public street, whistled off their snarling without taking his hands out from his pockets, and as if giving neighborly advice said, "You need to ride faster. You need to ride faster." And I felt his smile at my back as I rode away, and maybe a wink to the man he had been talking to. Perhaps I should have called the police, was all my friend could say, as we held our towels to our waists, both rented for a few dollars and too small to cinch and so far above our knees, I don't know why we bothered. This last poem is called To Barrett. I think it's self-explanatory as well. I kept the ones I had to explain out, so that's good. All right. Right? No, that's not true. Sometimes that's not true at all. Forgive me. To Barrett. I had a duck when I was a boy. He was nothing like my son, who is now grown and graduating in May with a master's degree in biostatistics. I was very young when I had him, the duck, I mean. I remember taking him home in the 6th grade. He was named Baden after Baden-Powell, hero of the Boer War, founder of the Boy Scouts, who was my great-great-uncle, but we called him Barrett. The duck loved playing soccer with us. He had a real beak for the ball. No one expected the duck to kick with his feet. That would have been ridiculous. My son had no inclination for sports. Turn around, we would call when the ball was coming towards him. I think he played one season of soccer. Anytime I happened to come across some duck, I couldn't help comparing him to Barrett. My friends had a jutting wing feather like my son's cowlick. Barrett was perfectly white and had a broad chest. Even built straight on, he had dignity. Everyone loved him, though my mother would not allow him in the house. He slept below the rabbit in the hutch outside. All my classmates who had ducks agreed I had the best one. No parent says this about another's child, although I'm sure plenty think it. Wish their fertilized egg had hatched into more. They all look about the same lying there in the incubator. Cute, too, once hatched. It's no wonder they encourage possibility. Anyway, my son is graduating with a master's in biostatistics and somehow plans to help Ethiopian mothers who are living in war zones. I'm not saying that's not great. All I'm really saying is, when I got those 2 Boston Celtic tickets for my 50th birthday when he was in high school, he could have gone. I ended up taking my nephew instead, which was fine, but the duck would have come. Thank you.
Following that, all right, this is bad order. You should have gone after me. We're gonna need some comic relief, I think. My poems tend to be a little more serious. So I was gonna read some from this book, but I decided just sitting here, I'm just gonna read some new ones. These are all mostly, the 3 here are, no they aren't. They're all fairly recent. And they're mostly for a collection I'm working on at the moment, my second one. This one's called, do I need glasses or not? Oh, and can you hear me?
That's better.
Okay, all right. This one's called Tap Dancing in Stop and Shop. My son's daughter spends the weekend. We have to stock up on gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free food. She's 8, already knows which brand of bread or pasta or oat milk she likes best. She feeds her heavy mama and herself. Says she's fine with no hugs and okay with her father disappearing for years. She thinks he's in a hospital, getting better, but there's no cure for his brand of demons. She skips down the aisles filled with bright boxes of cookies, crackers she can't eat, uncomplaining. In the middle of the store, her tight brown coils bounce as she shows me a tap dance routine. I can't stop beaming. She's learned this one thing she didn't have to learn. All right, this one is for a friend in the audience. I chose it, I probably wouldn't have read it otherwise. And I was talking to another friend about how hard it is sometimes to listen to a poem when you can't see it on the page because some things about a poem are visual. So I want to say that when I stop and have a long pause, it's because it's a bracket with an empty space, okay? So try to visualize that when I get to it. It's called Tarot Torch. Oh, and also I should say it's a villanelle, which if you don't know, that's a very strict form. This is a little not strict, but it's 5 triplets or tercets followed by 1 quatrain, and you have to keep repeating lines, which you'll hear in the poem. So Tarot Torch. Wild tongues were our last speaking, as ghosts sparring for sensation hurt us until we cut out tongues, ghosts touch. A magician waved his infinite wand to make us paste over every loss. Wild tongues were our last speaking. Weighed down by stars and water, we sparred without moving until we cut out tongues, stars, touch. Like captive kings and queens, we had nothing left to. Wild tongues were our last speaking. Ghosts, magicians, kings, and queens possessed our implacable past until we cut out tongues, time, touch. Our eyes reflected the moon's death, then drifted through high windows. Wild tongues were our last speaking. We cut out tongues, ghosts, touch. I should have said in the last quatrain, our eyes aren't eyes, they're I. But that was a little clumsy to explain before I read it. Okay, this one is hot off the press. I just moved to Norwich, or the Upper Valley, about a little more than a month ago. And this is the first poem I wrote after moving here. So this is dedicated to the Upper Valley, I guess. It's called October Pine Park. Running girl in black shorts, fuchsia sports bra, stops to walk up an orange leaf-carpeted hill. I want to tell her it's okay to slow down. The way my mother would say, you're not having a breakdown, you're having a breakthrough. I remember all my mother's words, but can't hear her laugh. A cluster of college kids is laughing. They actually gamble, cartwheel across such tender light. I wonder if it's joy or alcohol. My mother's face held joy, even when she was still drinking. Near the gold-specked river, a young couple are arguing or confessing or exchanging secrets on a beach log. I want to tell them it's okay to let love take its time, to cherish this perfect day caught in amber. Just before sunrise, I watched a pink streak scratch cerulean sky, writing all the time I don't have. Thank you.
Hi. Okay, the first poem I'm going to read is one that I wrote like 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago. And I don't know, it just kind of sticks with me. And it rhymes, so that's fun. It doesn't have a title. What does it mean to feel again? Just this, that I can find myself on a Sunday afternoon, unpremeditatedly in tune with the singing birds, that the rain's sullen kiss seeps into my skin instead of sliding across like glass, that my heart shatters every day and leaps when I see you smile, and I feel the loss of every leaf acutely as it flutters away. It means that the sunlight on your dimpled skin, flowing through rolling valleys, is mistakable for liquid gold, and that everything breakable is allowed a moment to be impervious in. For the first time in a quarter of my life, I'm brimming with things I don't want to get lost, things like love and awe and trepidation and strife and the thawing of a vicious frost. I can imagine walking in the summer air, twining my heart with yours in the shade, wearing crowns of flowers in my hair that I wove in the gardens you made. And then the next two I've chosen to read are a little bit more recent. I'll just do them chronologically. This one I wrote in March of this year. On a terrible day, I burn at slight provocation. The sun falls dead and unlovely. I am deaf to the chimes. There is no expression that can give my feeling shape. My lines upon the page fall short of meaning. Inside my flesh, I rattle the bars, and I'm too tired to curse the blood. I give up the effort to make it make sense and lie like a dog on the cool marble. I am in a house with my own enemy. We cannot escape, run as we may. I wish you knew the depth of my conflict. I wish you understood the things I cannot say. I hope that in the future we meet again someday, and you learn to see me and I learn to show myself. I will send you a copy of my first book of poetry. Please read it carefully. It is all I have. And the last one I wrote in September after living here. I just moved here in April, so I spent my summer farming, and it was a great summer, and this poem was kind of a reflection on that. The truth is that I still am lonely, although the summer was a season of great contentment for me. In the stillness of the long pause before the slow exhale, before the last of the goldenrod's splendor decays and the dying leaves come to their full glory, I have time to hear myself. Beneath the summer's happiness, there was still turmoil. I knew it all along. I am not solved. There was still a great unrest in the deeps beneath the placid surface. Only this is solved, that I am not irredeemably broken, and that the toil of my body is as good a balm as any I have found. That there is no greater wisdom than the wisdom that your fingers read in the grit of good dark soil. No greater purpose than to sow the earth and reap of it, that is, to go on. Of course, today was the day that the rain came again, after a dry week, the day I got around to finally caulking the window. So I am in the barn, and the drum of the rain beats on the corrugated roof. I am damp and smell of horse, and see the pale late sunlight of early September catch in the rain. The web of a large barn spider, which is just barely sheltered from the downpour, spanning between the window frame and the eave, flutters, and the cross breeze comes in and blows up pine shavings onto my shins. I have often thought, and not known what to do with the thought. I have never met someone too good to shovel shit. I think it again as I shovel shit. Some of the best people I know are the ones who have shoveled the most. The rain slows down, and it is quiet again. I am still lonely, the truth is, not unhappy. Thank you.
read from my phone, even though it's really unsexy. So I dated an astrophysicist briefly, which is an awesome sentence. And we were very different. And I think that's best exemplified by the fact that it's a Thursday night, I'm at a poetry reading. He's doing his PhD at Princeton in astrophysics, just like kind of different minds. But one of the times that we really connected is when I'd asked him how he'd gotten into physics, because he came to college as a poli-sci major. And he said he took this one physics class his freshman year, and he realized that he could predict the future with math. I was like, that's fucking awesome. And I kind of got interested in some of the overlaps between his STEM brain and my like humanities creative brain. And this is a poem kind of inspired by that. A truth. The rhythm that tugs the stars across the sky, that tips our stage into the spotlight of the sun, is the very same force that draws the Boy Scouts to their meeting at the Richard Black Community Center each Wednesday. Pins on their chest, American flag watching from the corner, they are bathed in solemn fluorescent light, and I see them through my window on my walk from work. Later, they'll be driven home by parents, weary with the great burden of love, from life patterned by dishwasher loads, cleaning the same spoons over and over while performing out the novels of their lives, missing the bus and kissing their mothers' foreheads for the last time, and crying at traffic stops, hugging at airports, telling secrets at night, saving regret for the morning's sobering silence. They, like you, will tell themselves sermons in the shower. It was always going to happen just like this. Our lives are life-sized. The cards were always counted, their shuffle turning unevenly in space, puppeted into neat, constant motion, into song and hurt. We will kiss and betray each other, notice and name the miracles. The baby's first yawn, the first time the shape and ridges of your lover's hand, ear, eyelashes become as familiar as your own, and the Boy Scout outgrowing his formal leather shoes, the sun a faint pink in the sky. More leaves will warm their driveways. Impossibly they fall each year, in a concert of orange. Impossibly the rules for the dusty, hidden electricity of the universe are the same rules that say that the pasta water will take a shower's length to boil and make the kitchen smell lovely when the sausage rolls about in the frying pan. The ball will reach the bottom of the hill. The fettuccine will fall into the stainless steel strainer. Soon the season will make the sunlight urgent and reclusive. Soon you will need another haircut. As in a dance, we will continue our spinning. And then another one is kind of also inspired by some college experiences. Like it's been really interesting I've graduated, but it's been really interesting to look back on that experience and think about what a sort of like difficult time, but also wonderful. Like the highs and lows are really so true. And how much of my college experience, and I think everyone's to some extent, is like overlapping memories and good mixed with bad right next to each other. And this is sort of a funny way to present that, because it's not necessarily about my memories. But there's this building at Dartmouth called BVAC, which is the Visual Arts Center, the Black Visual Arts Center. And it's donated by the Black family. And I've been interested in that. Yesterday in the jewelry shop, Maggie fixed my too big ring with a hammer and pliers and a machine she said I couldn't look at, or I'd burn my eyes. I watched her long fingers read the tools. Music played over the tap-tapping of metal shaping. In the ceramic studio next door, I once made from a gray mound a mug and a dish, a thrill, lumpy little things that I loved deliciously. If I were small, I would demand they be tacked to the fridge. And upstairs, the artists have their studio. Annie took me to her painting. It was of a bottle of chili oil, the colors rich with a nostalgia, her palette thick with a mottled crust. Here she is mixing, forming, sculpting, shaping. Peyton's corner of the studio is colorful and textured, photographs and sketches, bits of plastic, lights, pens, shapes, her playground, her ball pit. Here where she can sit cross-legged on the floor and feel electricity from the tips of her fingers, heat through the squint of her brow. Leon Black gave the money for this Eden, though not any more money than he gave Epstein post-conviction. Art is made here. And here is where the art making releases its pheromone into the air, a tang, the taste of young people capturing, balancing, proselytizing, risk-taking, mess-making. the studio, and the New York federal court, where Leon Black's case will head to trial in 2 weeks. He stands accused of raping a 16-year-old in Epstein's mansion. The child, a child, was autistic. And I think of a striking woman I met many weeks ago with long braids, amorphous inky tattoos on both hands, a woman who said a sentence that has rung in my ears since, "I'm autistic, so art making is a necessity." Doe versus Black, as if that could ever be title enough for a nameless girl's body not her own. Power is a red pill. Money is an opioid and a Band-Aid, and the student art brightens the wall and livens up the space, and the door to swing open and shut for people on their way to create, to breathe. And then the last one. I don't know if you guys remember the first friend you had who had a baby, how crazy that is. And so I'm 22, and I have a friend who has a baby, the first. And it's insane. And yeah, so this is kind of inspired by that experience of, I think before this, adults felt like a very different category, and babies kind of still do, but also feel like a different category. And I've been thinking about bridging that distance. So last week, I watched Molly's baby girl sneeze. I congratulated the little thing and told her, "You'll have so many more sneezes in your life." We went on a walk. I introduced her to the day. I read out the signs. Mascoma Street, Route 4 West. Stop is a patience. Yield is something we do because we trust our turns will come, and they will. I said, "This is a fence, and that's a park, and a child with a stuffed animal dragging its tail on the concrete." I told her, "That thing kissing your cheek, that's the breeze, girl. This is her very first autumn in the universe." Her knuckles are fat and dimpled. She has 2 teeth and knows nothing of her own beauty. She has never hurried. She has never tasted apple cider or crusty bread. She has never walked or worried. She can't understand what it feels like to scrape a knee. She hasn't known the betrayal of a paper cut, or that wrapping someone's thumb in a Band-Aid is not too different from letting them merge on the highway in front of you. She'll learn that we all slouch toward care. Eventually, she will read the sun on the curtains as a promise of summer coming, summer here. She hasn't yet felt delight at the sight of a hummingbird, for the simple reason that it is a hummingbird. She has never caught her coat on a nail and felt it tear, and sewn the hole and watched the stitches soon come undone again. This is all her becoming. At a dinner recently, I handed Lindsay the Parmesan, and she said she had never once grated cheese. And Gavin has never eaten a peach, and my mom's never dyed her hair purple, although she says she will one day. I've never been to Montana, and the bird watcher hasn't seen all the birds he will see. When the tire pressure light went on, it was the car urging me to call my dad, to ask many questions, all starting with how. Leave room for serendipity, Mom has said, even though there are too many kinds of flavored hummus to taste. But one thing I know for sure is that each day we learn how it is to be a day older, and what I mean by this is that life is still full of first times. One day, Molly's baby girl will be old and serious, and still she will not know. She will discuss things with the light on and then with the light off. One day she will hurt someone she cares for. She will say she's sorry and mean it too. She will learn how to write the letter G and fry an egg and let a friend go. She'll lose an earring to the city. Things slip out and away. She'll learn to forgive. There are ultimatums to make and break, and even she will tire on the walk home. None of us are the first to stop and yield, to cry into our soup. One day she'll ache with a tender, angry love for her mother, who is herself just another child grown old. But for now, her wishes are all milk and sleep. Thank you.
This is the 4th poem about a mother. However, we're going to change the tone a little bit here. I visit love as close as I can get. Ma, I don't seem to be able to write a poem about you and me. I've tried for 3 weeks, and the poem goes nowhere. Like in that photo where we stand together, apart in the silence of words never spoken. All I recall are doses of don'ts. When I'd been too young to question why crying, for God's sakes, would make me sick, or happy laughter would bring bad luck. Sort of like Chicken Little. Did you think a catastrophic sky would fall on my head? And more than once you'd said I had a big head. Did that mean I was stuck up and stubborn? I think you knew I had my own strong mind hidden under the perfect princess ponytail. It took me a while, but I finally got it. I must have ripped you ragged in the birthing. But other things ripped you ragged too. You set your mouth on the knife edge of misery and disapproval, and back then there was no Prozac, and you wouldn't have taken it anyway. I always knew you could see right through people's bullshit. It would have been, oh, so good if you had dumped your own defenses on the living room floor. The hospice nurse said that after diagnosis, most people go on as usual. Only a few will exorcise the ghosts that inhabited them, and I shouldn't expect miracles. Ma, I barely knew you. I must have scared the hell out of you. I never brought you up to be like that, daughter. I want you to know I light candles now in obscure churches just for you. Candles that illuminate those dark, hollow places, the house you grew up in, the house I grew out of. I wrote this, a couple of years ago. It's called Gall. It's about us, humans, supposedly. We're buffalo frogs and fire ants, devils and dragonflies. We're a congress of baboons, a parliament of screeching owls. We're coyote prowling the underearth, bone crushers, wolverines. We peacock green, green hyena, crow, curless. So many of us, swinish, bullish, mulish, snakish, boll-weeveling the ground, swarming the sky, inclined to leave our blight in full surround. Bête noire, man of war, we're the most dangerous animal on earth, wicked with want, a moral quandary with a howitzer. I wonder who will save us from ourselves, and which pufferfish or tsetse fly might be left to inherit a world we think we own. I'm dark tonight. I hope whoever comes next is humorous. Oh my God, okay. Dark is good. Dark is good. This is my dark mood. Self-portrait with geranium. Oh God, if you're up there enough already. David Foster Wallace said that from This Is Water. I have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and an irritable bowel. A dog who likes me better than I currently like myself. I'm full of outrage. It's horrible, wretched, no good, bad, our state of disunion. Some bozo's t-shirt says, stay calm and carry a gun. Stay away, I say, from people who pack a .45 to buy ice cream. Stay away from bombast bursting in air, Caesar wannabes dishing out decrees that fester like sneaky cheese. Whatever happened to the mighty woman with a torch? Give me, you're tired, you're poor, etc. Have we become extras in some Stygian comedy of narcissistic self-gratification? I said desperado by my geranium. If I wore pearls, I'd probably choke myself.
Well, mine are not lighthearted at all. I dug back in poems that I've read in the past, and I thought, oh, these sort of are like today. Yeah. So the first one is called A Quiet Night Here. Oh, there's a moon out there tonight, and there is. With all the nightly clouds, one loses track. One does not lose track, alas, of all the wars over there. The need to put an end to those lives that differ. The parched earths, the earthquakes, the floods, the hurricanes, tsunamis. But oh, there's a moon out there tonight, surveying us all down here. We'd like to go there, We try to go there, not just curious, but maybe another place to escape to, maybe another place to ruin, to muck up in our zeal for progress. Scotty, beam me up. GPS me to paradise, way on the other side. And this one's called The Unnatural World. I'm rounding the corner in my car. There, scattering and clucking, a bevy of chickens, here, there, and over there. Why am I smiling? Ants are covering my kitchen counter, running about, finding errant spills, every which way determined. Why am I smiling? My yellow cat yowling fiercely at the front screen door. Lo, a sleek black kitty on the other side, testing wills, testing patience. Why am I smiling? A raven croaking across the sky, chased by an adamant adversary, maybe new young somewhere at issue. Why am I smiling? Chickens, ants, cats, birds, creatures all around us. They go about their lives, solving their issues, barely touching mine except to watch, admire, and smile. We too are creatures, lesser I might say, not crawling soundlessly doing our business, no, doing more than yowling and chasing. We stand aside. It's not a fence, a screen to separate us, to look through and watch. It's a wall that divides us. We are not smiling. We are not smiling as insults and hatred are flung across the way. Each may be wanting advantage on the other side of that screen. Each may be a self instead of a flock. Each with an unbending conviction, unwilling to share natural spills. We are not smiling as our world that could be constructive, complacent, natural, is crumbling around us. And by the way, I wrote that in July 2022. And another in that same vein. Pax vobiscum, peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. The kids lie sprawled on the rug, each with a magnificent Lego town. They quarrel, yell, and the towns are destroyed, Lego pieces strewn all over the room. CNN shows what quarrels do. Jews, Muslims, Shiites, Sunnis, their views of the creator above throw Lego pieces to the wind. The creator creates the destroyers. Each sort wants a section of the rug. My town is better than your town, and I'm going to steal all your pieces. Joyful, all ye nations, rise. Sorry. From C.J. Kitten. Oh, coming. We're starting, and then we can start over.
This is my first time here. Okay. So, okay. So I've got a dark comedy in two parts here to start off with. And part one is called The Gyre. There's plastic dancing in the ocean. There's a dance club called The Gyre, and it's the hottest thing with plastic pieces everywhere. All over the world, plastic large and small is rushing down rivers or by wind to the sea to join the dance. Even the littlest bits in our clothing are dying to go. Late at night, while we're doing laundry, tired and oblivious, they sneak out down the drain, all together in a bubbly teenage plastic crowd. They don't have a clue what they're in for or what to expect. It's a big world out there for plastic. Some end up stranded on beaches. Some of them fall in with gangs of fish. They just get assimilated. And consumers complain about the bad influence of plastic on fish. Plastic that once seemed so sweet, so innocent, so helpful. Who would have thought it could ever strangle a turtle or choke a bird or kill a fish? How could we have known? How could we have known it would wreak such havoc on its way to the gyre? It only wanted to dance in the ocean. Part 2 is called Indigestion. Yeah. Am I pronouncing that right? Otherwise, AKA the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. You can Google it. By the way, I want you all to know I'm a relationship counselor for humans and planet Earth. So yes, that explains a lot. So indigestion. Gaia has the world's biggest stomachache, a stomachache caused by her human children force-feeding her plastic, feeding her a story she's finding a bit hard to swallow. But we keep telling it because, hey, it's so convenient. It lasts forever, and it comes in any color we want. Fresh, crisp-colored plastic wrap around our food and along roadsides. Crystal clear plastic around our water and in the oceans. Warm, fuzzy-colored polar fleece around our bodies and in our air and lungs. Plastic, it's everywhere. What's happening inside our bodies? Do our cells find the plastic we're feeding them a bit hard to swallow? Or are they as infatuated with plastic as we are? Do they say, dude, this stuff is great. It lasts forever. So convenient. And it comes in any color we want. Okay, and then the second one I'm going to do is a piece which has the distinction of actually being buried in a time capsule on a butte in the middle of the high desert in Oregon, where I was in 2017, I guess it was, for the total solar eclipse. It was not my time capsule, but I participated in a little ceremony after the eclipse to bury it, so that's where it resides. And it also has the distinction of having the world's tackiest last line, but I like to think that I used it in such a way that I can get away with it, but anyway, you can tell me what you think. It's called Catching Starlight. This is the moment, a moment begun 1,000 years away on a distant sun. 1,000 years it fell through the dark of space and skies, 1,000 years to fall into our eyes. We're catching starlight from the echoes of time. On the edge of our future, we're watching it shine. Welcome to our world. The space between us two is blazing with the darkness, consuming me and you. But we're catching starlight to illuminate our dark. 1,000 years we've waited for this unifying spark. It's come a long way to be here, where we stand, trusting that we'd give it a peaceful place to land. We're catching starlight in the atoms of our eyes, atoms that were forged from the stardust skies. And this light is a tiny messenger from a star, here to remind us how connected we are. You and I on the edge, a fragile life in our hands, this moment caught in our eyes. You and I are the ones who have been entrusted to keep this moment alive, because this is the moment, a moment of light that fell 1,000 years just to be in our sight. In this world on the edge, there's a light in the sky. We can walk through the dark with the stars in our eyes. Tacky last line. And then my last one, does this come off? Can I take this off? How does it come off?
You want to do it?
Why is that such a tight? Oh, it just flips up from the back. Okay, so I'm just going to set that there. Okay, so the last one I'm going to do is short. And it is a piece that was written a few years ago inspired by the Larsen C ice shelf in Antarctica, which at the time was causing quite the kerfluffle among scientists. It's called The Crack. And I'm going to need a little help with this one, okay, from you guys. So. Okay, So see, now you get a job, and you have to keep on, even if I screw up, okay? Don't give up. There's a crack in the ice of the world, of our life, a crack that's approaching the edge. When we get there, a piece of the world as we know it is gonna split off this ledge. The dark line creeps over white in the night like the demon jaws of a trap. When it snaps, when it cracks, when it rips us in half, they're gonna have to redraw the maps. Hey! Keep going. There's a crack. See how I so screwed up? So you could never see what you done to me with all the things you stole. You said I was your home, then you raped me to the bone. You fracked my fractured soul. Now will you look me in the eyes? Will you come apologize or stand and watch us burn? Will you show some empathy, or is power all you see? Will you choose it over me? Yep. Now there's a crack in the way that you live, that you give. It splits us down the spine. As we bleed, as we burn, no, you don't seem to learn that we're running out of time. 'Cause there's a crack in the ice of the world, of our life, a crack that's deep as hell. Through the fire and the ice, we are dropping like dice to the bottom of this well. No, 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 when it breaks, when it snaps, when it rips us in half, they're gonna have to redraw the maps. They're gonna have to redraw the maps.